The Major League Baseball trade deadline is Tuesday, and our Jim Bowden reports the Juan Soto sweepstakes includes the Dodgers, Padres, and Cardinals. Soto declined a 15-year, $440 million extension from the Nationals earlier this month. Bowden adding the two-time All-Star will not sign any new deal with Washington while the team is in the process of being sold. All right, so welcome in the aforementioned Jim Bowden, former MLB Executive of the Year and CBS Sports Baseball Insider. Jim, what's the latest on a potential trade for Juan Soto?
Yeah, Keem, I've been in touch with the Nationals front office here within the last hour, and it's very clear there's only the three teams left in the mix that you mentioned. That's the Padres, the Cardinals, and Dodgers. Now, the Cardinals package will have more major league players in it. The San Diego Padres package is more about prospects, and the Dodgers have kind of a mix between the two. They've been talking to the Cardinals about a return that would be centered around outfielder Dylan Carlson as well as third baseman Nolan Gorman. The package with the Padres would be around their top outfield prospect Robert Hassel III and middle infielder C.J. Abrams. The Dodgers, there's all kinds of names being thrown around there, but my understanding is Gavin Lux from the Major League team would be part of it. Bobby Miller, the right-hander who throws about 100 miles an hour, would be part of that deal as well. I'm hearing that probably the Cardinals and the Padres right now have an edge over the Dodgers, but anything is subject to change depending upon if any of the offers are altered between now and the deadline on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern.
I'm curious about your input here because the Padres, of course, lost out on the Max Scherzer sweepstakes last year, and the Dodgers swooped in and got him. What would this mean for San Diego if they're able to make a deal for Juan Soto?
Well, I mean, it's pretty dramatic because don't forget, they're playing without Fernando Tatis Jr., and they're going to be getting him back here in the month of August. So can you imagine adding Tatis and Soto to their team right now? It's a game changer because those three guys in the middle of the lineup can actually carry this team offensively in the regular season, but more importantly, you'd have three hitters that can hit elite pitching come October. And when you're talking about playoff teams like the Mets who are going to throw Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom against you, or you talk about the Brewers who can throw out there Corbin Burns or Brandon Woodruff, or the Dodgers with Clayton Kershaw, Julio Urias, and Tony Gonsolin. If you have hitters that can hit good pitching, then you can run the table in October. You put Soto and Tatis with Machado in the group they have right now, they easily could run the table.
Yeah, they got a pretty big division deficit behind the Dodgers, 12 games. But it could happen. I mean, you never know. The Dodgers get cold, probably not.
One thing to keep in mind, though, keep in mind this, Hakeem. This year, the wild card game isn't 1 and out.
Correct.
It's best 2 out of 3.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why there's a lot of incentive for a team like the Mariners to trade for Luis Castillo like they did over the weekend. And that's why there's incentive with the Padres. You don't have to win the division. You get in as a wild card team, you get a 2 out of 3 game series, and that's why you're seeing more wild card teams willing to pay a bigger package to get that big fish right now.
Well, and that's the reason why the Mariners aren't making a deal, right? I mean, they have a huge deficit in the AL West, but they give up a huge package to get Luis Castillo, who you mentioned, and it looked like a package to me to get Juan Soto. Instead, they get Luis Castillo, who by far is the best pitcher on the market, who had been. But the monster package, 3 of Seattle's top 5 prospects, number 1 prospect, Noelvi Marte, number 3 prospect, Edwin Arroyo, both shortstops, and then the 5th-ranked prospect in their organization, Levi Stout. Jim, the initial reaction was Seattle gave up too much, but with a 20-year playoff drought on the line, was this a move Jerry Dipoto had to make?
Yeah, I think so. Look, I talked to Jerry Dipoto earlier today, get his breakdown of the team, and look, they felt like they needed another starter to get into the playoffs, right? And now you've got Robbie Ray, Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, Chris Flexen, who's throwing extremely well. You've got Marco Gonzalez and George Kirby. Now you're 6 deep in the rotation. But Jerry's point was, look, I get to the playoffs, and I can run out there last year's Cy Young Award winner in Robbie Ray. I can run out Castillo and Gilbert in the first 3 games. I can beat anybody in a short series. And he's absolutely right. And look, you got to pay a price. There was only one Luis Castillo really at that level on the market that we know it was going to be traded. So they were able to do the deal. Remember, they didn't have to put Kirby in the deal. They didn't have to put Emerson Hancock in the deal either. So, yes, it was a huge pay. The Reds got a big haul going back, and it's a deal 5 years from now they're going to regret. But as you pointed out, there are sometimes the GM, you have to go for it. Jerry Dipoto's been there 7 years. He's never gotten them into the playoffs. The Mariners have had a 21-year drought. The time has come to get into the playoffs and make a run. I totally understand why they made this deal.
There was plenty of talk that Castillo would end up in the Bronx, and, well, he's going to be in the Bronx. We're expected to see him Wednesday to make his Mariners debut. Yankees already acquired Andrew Benintendi. Who's the pitcher they're targeting at this point?
Yeah, so they're going to try to see what it's going to take to get Carlos Rodon, who pitched on Sunday here in the Sunday night game. They really would like to get him if the Giants decide to trade him. The Giants weren't going to trade Rodon, but after they saw the return on Castillo, they said, well, I better start listening to people if we can get that kind of return. The Yankees won't put Anthony Volpe in a deal for Rodon. They wouldn't do it for Castillo, which is why they didn't get Castillo. So they're working on a deal right now with the Oakland A's to try to get Frankie Montas. There is a little bit of a hiccup. Remember, he's had that shoulder problem, so they're going to have to check the medicals to make sure they're clear, because they're going to have to give up significant prospects in order to get Montas, because the A's now are expecting a big return after watching the Castillo deal. And although the Marlins aren't really shopping Pablo Lopez, the right-hander with that great changeup, they are listening, and my understanding is the Yankees have talked to them as well. It sounds to me like Rodon and Montas, the more realistic targets at this point, but boy, they have a lot of competition in the trade market right now for any of them.
Yankees in first place in the AL East. Red Sox are in last place. How is Boston approaching the trade deadline?
Well, I can tell you last Monday, the Red Sox were in the mode where they were going to buy, and they were very clear on their position. Later in the week, they made sure that they talked to Xander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers. This was 4 days ago, and they told them they are not being traded. Now, what I have learned over the weekend, and I've talked to a member of the Red Sox front office, they are now exploring all options. I've talked to opposing GMs who tell me they're everywhere. So they are trying to buy, they're trying to sell. What does that mean? They're trying to get a bat, either a first baseman or an outfielder. They're trying to upgrade their bullpen, especially in middle relief. At the same time, they're seeing what they can get for J.D. Martinez, Christian Vasquez, Nathan Eovaldi, Rich Hill, and Michael Wacha. They want to know what all their options are before making a decision. The fact they haven't played well the last 10 days is definitely becoming a factor in their decision-making process. So we'll see. Now, the New York Mets are in the process of trying to trade for Wilson Contreras and Dave Robertson of the Cubs. But they don't want to give up Mark Vientos. They're trying to hold on to him. They like his bat a lot. They're trying to hold on to Ronnie Mauricio. And so they're not really matching up right now like they want to with the Cubs. The guy they want to use to make a trade is Dominic Smith, the first baseman, but the Cubs are kind of not as interested in that kind of deal. But the Red Sox have interest in Dominic Smith, and so they've talked about a deal, a bigger deal that would involve Dominic Smith going to Boston with J.D. Martinez and or Christian Vasquez going to New York. So a lot of rumors, a lot of rumblings, a lot of talk. We'll just have to wait over the next 48 hours and see what happens.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a flurry of moves, especially once the Juan Soto deal or no deal ends up happening. The other big guy on the trade block, which I don't really think he's on the trade block, but you're saying, and you reported that the Angels are listening to offers for two-way star Shohei Ohtani. Look, I'm all for this. If they want to trade him and they feel like, hey, we're not going to be competitive, we're not going to be able to hold on to him. But realistically, what are the chances they actually trade him here at the deadline by Tuesday?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to trade him. They're listening, and they will continue to listen, but there is no traction for a deal. You know, in my conversation with Jerry Dipoto, the GM of the Mariners earlier today, I asked him directly if he was talking to the Nationals about Soto or the Angels about Ohtani, and he responded to me that he absolutely did his due diligence. He talked to both GMs on those players, but he saw no pathway, no way or possibility that the Mariners could trade for either player. When I talk to GMs throughout the league, I get the same feedback that Dipoto gave me when I'm talking about Ohtani. They basically say, hey, look, we've done our due diligence, we've talked to them, we just don't see a way where we can match up with them with an Ohtani deal at this point. It sounds to me like the Angels will probably wait until the offseason and then re-explore the marketplace for Shohei Ohtani. It doesn't sound like to me, unless something changes dramatically between now and Tuesday at 6, it sounds like he's going to stay put. But I will say this, whoever loses out on Juan Soto, right, between the Cardinals and the Padres and Dodgers, one of them may decide to pick up the phone and all of a sudden make a deal with the Angels or make an offer they haven't made yet. So sometimes at the last minute things can change. But based on my intel, I would say 70% chance Soto gets traded, 5% chance Ohtani does.
Look, I know these are real lives and these are real people that we're talking about here. And moving teams and moving cities is kind of wild and it's chaotic. But as a fan, I'm rooting for the chaos, Jim. I'm rooting for the chaos. Rooting for it.
I don't think we're going to get as much chaos as we did a year ago.
Yeah, that was wild.
But if the Soto deal happens, that's going to be the biggest trade in sports since Herschel Walker was traded to the Cowboys, which led to multiple Super Bowl champions for them.
Yeah. What they got? What did they get? Like 7 first-round picks? It's ridiculous, right?
It was absurd.
Yeah, it was an absurd package. Trade deadline, Major League Baseball, 6 Eastern on Tuesday. Jim Bowden with the very latest here on CBS Sports HQ. Jim, thank you.
Thanks, Akeem.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.